I want you to take a second and visualize a ruler, or maybe better yet, a calendar.
Okay.
Pick a random date on it. Maybe it's today's date. To the vast majority of the world, that little box on the calendar it's just a Tuesday.
Right. Normal day.
It's a day to get groceries, sit in traffic, maybe catch up on emails. It's mundane. But for someone else out there, that specific date is a heavy black line drawn right through the center of that timeline.
It's the demarcation line. The moment where the world as they knew it just stopped.
Exactly.
And when it started spinning again, it was on a completely different axis.
We usually measure our lives in years or maybe career milestones or, for some of us, how much gray hair is showing up. But there is a much heavier, much more permanent way of measuring time that I want to start with today. And it's this concept of the benchmark of loss.
And that benchmark, it just cleaves a life in two. There is the before and there is the after. And the tricky thing is, once you cross that line into the after, the person you were in the before, well, they don't exist anymore. You're left trying to navigate a world that looks familiar but feels entirely alien.
And the big question we're grappling with today is, how on earth do humans process that when the weight of grief is so impossible that it feels like it might actually crush you physically? Where do you go?
How do you map a terrain that isn't on any map?
To explore that question, we are doing a deep dive into The Inscription by Amy Burton.
Now, on the surface, this is a fictional story. It's a novel. But as we went through the material, it became pretty clear that this is less of a standard novel and more of a survival guide.
Oh, 100%.
It's a cartography of the emotional landscape of loss.
It really is. It feels like the author lived this, or at least understood it on a cellular level. And our mission today is to unpack that map. We're going to look at how a group of strangers forms something called the Broken Hearts Club.
We're going to analyze the very different ways men and women handle grief, which is a huge source of conflict in this story. And we are going to decode the mystery of a character named Barnaby.
Barnaby.
Who might just be one of the most fascinating figures we've ever discussed on a deep dive.
Barnaby is certainly the enigma here. He's the key that unlocks the whole narrative. But before we get to him, we have to set the scene.
We do.
And the atmosphere Burton creates in the opening chapter is just visceral. You can almost feel the temperature drop.
It's freezing. That's the first thing that hits you. We are in a cemetery in Michigan in the dead of winter.
And if you've never been to Michigan in the winter, we aren't talking about a light dusting of snow.
Oh.
We are talking about bone-deep, gray, frozen isolation.
And that external environment perfectly mirrors the internal state of our protagonist, Abby Stennett.
She is frozen.
She's driving a Dodge Caravan. The roads are treacherous. She's white-knuckling the steering wheel. And it's Christmas Day. But she's not heading to a family dinner with a trunk full of presents.
No. She's visiting the grave of her daughter, Chloe.
And this is the first hard detail we get. Chloe was still born on February 8th. So Abby is there, kneeling in the snow, trying to have a Christmas moment with a child she never got to raise.
Yeah.
It's intimate and it's quiet.
Until it isn't. Just as she's having this incredibly private, heartbreaking moment, the silence shatters. She hears screaming.
And the source material makes a point of saying this isn't like animal noises. It's human screaming.
A wail?
It's a wail.
Okay,
it's the sound of someone who has completely run out of the capacity to hold it together.
Abby follows the sound, which honestly is brave in itself. Most people would run the other way.
Oh, for sure.
But she follows it and finds another woman, Laura, literally lying prostrate in the snow, pounding the frozen ground with her fists.
Wow.
Laura is grieving her son, Christian, who died when he was just 2 days old.
And this moment right here is the catalyst for everything that follows. Because normally, if you stumble upon a stranger having a breakdown in a graveyard, the instinct is to feel awkward.
Right, you back away.
You back away, you give them privacy.
But Abby doesn't do that. She walks over, puts a hand on Laura's shoulder, and says something that is so simple, but so profound. She says, "It's okay, I cry like that sometimes too."
That is the start. It's the instant bond of shared trauma.
Yes.
They don't need to explain the why or the how right away. They don't need to exchange resumes or talk about the weather. They just know that the other person gets it.
Gets it in a way the rest of the world, even their own families, might not. It cuts through all the social niceties, and that chance encounter in the freezing snow leads to a pact. They decide that they shouldn't be alone on the hard days.
Hmm.
They agree to meet at the cemetery on birthdays and holidays.
This is the formation of the Broken Hearts Club.
I love that name, by the way. Laura coins it. It sounds a little bit like a teenage band, but in context, it's so defiant.
It is.
It's like they are planting a flag and saying, yeah, we're broken, but we're broken together.
It gives them an identity when their old identities, as mothers of living children, have been shattered,
Right.
and the club grows. On Chloe's first birthday, which is in February, so we're still in that bleak winter setting, Abby and Laura are doing a balloon release.
These pink balloons.
They send up these pink balloons against the gray sky, and they spot a guy sitting a few graves over.
This is Justin. And his story. Man, if you thought Abby and Laura had it rough, Justin's story is staggering.
It is. He's a former missionary who was serving in India. He's sitting at the grave of his wife, Tiffany.
And this is a case of compounding grief.
Absolutely. Justin reveals that Tiffany died 2 years ago. But she wasn't just his wife. She was pregnant when she died.
So in one single tragic event, he lost his partner, his unborn child, and his calling because he left the mission field in his grief.
He's completely adrift. And his inclusion in the group leads to this central concept of the benchmark we mentioned at the top.
Yeah, this is key.
It happens on Mother's Day. The trio is gathered. Abby, Laura, Justin. And Justin asks this question that just hangs in the air. He asks if holidays will ever be the same.
It's the question every grieving person asks. When do I get back to normal?
Yeah.
And Abby gives the definitive answer. She says no. She explains that a benchmark is a point of reference. Before the loss, life was measured one way. After the loss, everything is judged by a different standard.
It's such a crucial insight because so often people are told to move on or get over it.
Right.
But Abby is saying there is no moving on to the old life. That life is gone.
Exactly. It's not about moving on. It's about acknowledging that reality has fundamentally shifted.
You can't go back.
You can't go back to the pre-benchmark measurements. And what cements this group, this Broken Hearts Club, is that they are the only ones who allow each other to sit in that new reality without trying to fix it immediately.
Speaking of fixing it, let's talk about the friction. Because while the club is supportive, things at home are, well, they're complicated.
Very complicated, specifically for Abby and her husband, Luke. This part of the book felt very real to me.
It is.
It wasn't romanticized.
No, it wasn't. This is a dynamic I think a lot of listeners will recognize, even if they haven't lost a child.
Yeah.
It's the being versus doing conflict in relationships.
Yeah. So Father's Day rolls around. It's raining. It's miserable. Abby wants to go to the cemetery to honor Chloe.
And Luke refuses to go.
He refuses. And Abby loses it. She interprets this as he's forgotten her. He doesn't care. He's moved on.
Which is a classic misinterpretation of grief styles.
Yeah.
Abby is looking at Luke through her own lens. She is a beer.
Explain that.
She needs to be with the feelings. She needs to visit the site. She needs to talk about it.
And Luke.
Luke is a doer. When a doer encounters pain or a problem, their instinct is to fix it.
Right.
They work late. They fix the sink. They build a deck.
Yeah.
But here is the tragedy for Luke. You can't fix death.
You can't.
You can't build a deck that brings your daughter back. So he feels completely helpless.
So avoiding the cemetery isn't about not caring. It's about avoiding the reminder of his helplessness.
Precisely. And this is actually where Barnaby, that mysterious figure we teased, makes his first major intervention.
Right. So the group is standing in the rain, upset about their spouses not understanding them, and suddenly this older man appears. Let's just describe Barnaby for a second, because he's got a specific look. He has white hair. He's wearing a really fancy suit and tie-like tuxedo-level butt. He's wearing dirty, worn-out tennis shoes.
That visual dissonance is a massive clue, though we don't know it yet.
No idea.
So Barnaby steps in and he explains to Abby that Luke is grieving. He's just doing it differently.
He acts as a translator. He tells them, just because he isn't crying in the rain doesn't mean he isn't broken.
And we get confirmation of this from Laura's husband, Mike, too.
Oh, Mike!
Mike is this big, burly guy with tattoos, looks tough as nails.
Yeah.
He shows up at the cemetery to support Laura, but he admits to the group that he feels useless.
He says he wants to fix her pain.
He wants to punch the grief in the face, but he can't.
It's a powerful validation of different grieving processes. I think for anyone listening who is clashing with a partner over trauma, this is the takeaway. You might be speaking different emotional languages.
Absolutely. Barnaby helps them see that compassion means understanding the other person's language, not forcing them to speak yours.
So let's dig deeper into Barnaby. Because he keeps popping up. He hangs out behind this chain-link fence covered in ivy right inside the cemetery. It's locked with a padlock.
A very mysterious setup. He tells Abby early on that he is grieving his child who is buried inside that enclosure. But unlike the Broken Hearts Club, Barnaby is weirdly stable.
Very stable. He becomes the sage of the group.
He really does. Like, take Justin. Justin is angry. He's furious at God. He was a missionary. He gave his life to service, and then his wife and baby died. He feels betrayed.
Understandably.
And Barnaby doesn't scold him for that. No, he actually validates the anger. He challenges it, but he validates it. The group talks about how people say those terrible cliches like, it was for the best.
Ugh, or God wanted another angel. The absolute worst things to say to a grieving person.
Right. And Barnaby validates their anger at those empty platitudes. But then he drops this wisdom bomb. He tells them, while you may never discover a reason for the death, you can be certain that there was a purpose for the life.
That distinction, reason versus purpose, is huge. I want to sit on that for a second. What is the practical difference there?
The reason asks why. Why did the cord wrap around the baby's neck? Why did the accident happen? And I mean, often the answer is just biology or bad luck.
It's a dead end.
It is. It keeps you looking backward.
And purpose.
Purpose asks what? What did this life do? How did Chloe change Abby? How did Tiffany change Justin? Even if a life lasted 2 days, it had an impact.
Right.
Focusing on the impact of purpose allows you to build something forward. Focusing on the reason just keeps you digging a hole in the ground.
Barnaby shifts their gaze from the past to the future impact. And he doesn't just use words, he brings gifts.
Oh, this scene.
This Christmas meeting they have, it's probably my favorite scene in the source material. It feels almost like a fable.
It does. It's mystical. The group gathers on Christmas, and Barnaby presents these specific gifts that symbolize their healing journeys. He gives Laura a small vial, a bottle.
The bottle of tears.
Yes, it's filled with this cloudy liquid, but when Barnaby shakes it, it turns iridescent. It swirls with colors, and he tells her these are her tears.
But not just sad tears, right?
Exactly. He says it's a mixture. It's the tears of sorrow, yes, but also tears of joy. And the message is that the tears of joy will eventually outnumber the tears of sorrow.
It's a physical representation of hope.
It is. It acknowledges her pain. He literally bottled it, but promises a future where joy is the dominant color.
It's beautiful. And then there's Justin's gift. Justin, the guy who wanted to turn back time. Barnaby hands him a pocket watch.
But not a normal watch. The second hand ticks counterclockwise.
Which, at first glance, feels like a cruel joke for a guy who is obsessed with the past. Here's a watch that goes backwards, just like you want, but it doesn't actually change anything.
It seems that way, but then Justin reveals the backstory. On her deathbed, Tiffany asked him what he would wish for. He whispered to her that he wished to turn back time.
And somehow Barnaby knew this.
That's the moment where the hair on the back of my neck stood up.
Me too.
The watch isn't a time machine. It's a permission slip. Justin has been stuck in a loop of regret. The watch symbolizes that it's okay to let go of that specific wish. It's a reminder to cherish every moment now. It snaps him out of the what if and brings him back to the what is.
It breaks the cycle. He realizes that by obsessing over the past he can't change, he's missing the life he still has.
Precisely. Barnaby is guiding them from stuck to moving forward, but not by forgetting, by integrating the loss.
Okay, we have to talk about the reveal. Because the whole time, Abby has been dying to know what is behind that ivy-covered fence. Who is Barnaby's child?
This is the climax of the narrative.
Yeah.
It's Easter or spring, specifically April 4th. Barnaby invites Abby to finally unlock the gate.
The tension here is so high. She takes the key, she unlocks the padlock, she walks inside the enclosure, and she sees the tombstone.
And the name.
And the name on the tombstone isn't a son or a daughter, it says Barnaby.
It's a shock to the system. She spins around thinking she's been talking to a ghost for a year.
Right.
But Barnaby is standing right there, solid as a rock, laughing. He said, I am very much alive, and points out that the grave is empty.
This is where it gets really metaphysical. Barnaby explains that he was grieving for them, for Abby, Laura, and Justin. He refers to their lost loved ones, Chloe, Christian, Tiffany, as my children.
And here is where we have to connect the dots on the imagery, the empty tomb. That is classic resurrection symbolism. The source material is drawing a direct line here.
A very direct line.
Barnaby is a Christ figure or a manifestation to the divine.
But the shoes! We have to go back to the dirty tennis shoes with the fancy suit.
That is the most important theological detail in the book. Why would a divine figure wear dirty shoes?
Right. Why?
Because of the concept of imminence. If he were just a god figure in a pristine suit, he'd be distant, authoritative, up in the clouds.
But the shoes are dirty.
They are dirty because he has been walking in the dirt. He has been tramping through the snow, the mud, and the frozen cemetery with them.
He hasn't been observing their grief from a distance.
No, he has been participating in
She
it.
basically tells Abby, I grieved with you. I walked every step of this with you. And then he gives her the padlock and just leaves. He walks over a hill and disappears.
It changes everything for Abby. The isolation is gone. She realizes that even in her darkest, coldest moments in that Dodge Caravan, she wasn't actually alone.
So we jump to the epilogue, Beauty for Ashes. What happens to the Broken Hearts Club after Barnaby leaves? Because the easy Hollywood ending would be everything is fixed and they all lived happily ever after.
But that would violate the benchmark rule. You can't go back. So instead, we get transformation. Physically, the grave vanishes. Abby and Laura go back, and the fence, the tombstone, it's all gone. Only the padlock remains as proof.
Which is wild. But their lives have moved forward, right?
Drastically. Laura has a new baby, a toddler named Logan. The bottle of tears prophecy came true. She has joy again.
But she hasn't replaced Christian.
No. She talks about him. The joy and the sorrow coexist.
And Justin.
The watch worked. He stopped looking backward. He renewed his faith, got past his bitterness, and started a nonprofit called A Time to Mourn to help other widowers.
He turned his pain into a purpose.
Exactly.
And Abby.
Abby and Luke, the couple that was on the brink of divorce because they couldn't understand each other's grief, they adopt a baby girl, Anastasia Rose.
So the theme here isn't that everything was fixed in the way they originally wanted. They didn't get their lost loved ones back.
No. And that's the concept of the divine swap. They received beauty for ashes. They didn't get the specific miracle they begged for, the return of the dead, but they received joy, purpose, and companionship. They integrated the loss into a new version of their lives that is full and meaningful.
It's such a journey. We started in this frozen, isolated parking lot with everyone screaming or crying alone, and we end with this warm, communal healing.
You notice the grief didn't disappear. The benchmark is still there. Life is still divided into before and after. But the after isn't a wasteland anymore.
No.
It's a garden. It has growth.
So what does this all mean for us, for the listener who might be sitting in their own before and after moment, or maybe for the listener who knows someone who is?
I think the core takeaway is about presence. Barnaby's dirty shoes tell us that companionship, whether you see it as human or divine, is the antidote to the despair of grief.
Yeah.
No one walks the path of sorrow alone, even if it feels like it.
And also the permission to grieve in your own way. Whether you are a beer like Abby who needs to cry or a doer like Luke who needs to build a deck.
Absolutely. Stop judging your own grief. And stop judging your partner's grief. And try to look for the purpose of the life, even if you can't find the reason for the death. That shift in perspective can be the difference between getting stuck and finding a way to breathe again.
It's heavy stuff, but it's hopeful.
Wow.
And I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over today. We talked about the benchmark. If grief is the price we pay for love, how do we ensure we are actually being with our grief, walking with it like Barnaby in those dirty shoes, rather than just trying to get over it? Because maybe, just maybe, the healing isn't in the fixing. The healing is in the walking.
That's the truth.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. This was a special one.
Take care of yourself.
See you next time.